All right, guys. I think this is episode 25. Coach DeBellis likes to make fun of me. As the co-host, that should be his job to know the numbers, and tell me how much time.
25, Coach. 25.
Thank you. We got Ryan Rudinger. Did I say that right? And Shawn Sojena. So yeah, and Shawn Sojena here. Two great guys for us. Committed guys, worked their butts off when they were there. Both a couple times section qualifiers. Leaders of the team. And they were part of an era where I think we were really starting to turn the corner. I think they kind of put the stepping stones for guys like, Jacob, Aaron, and Matt that were coming soon after them. I think it really helped. But just for, so you guys, I'll try to call you guys by name because I might get a little all over the place. But if you guys want to jump in, just jump in. So same question for both of you, but we'll start with Ryan. How'd you get into wrestling? What made you do it in the first place?
I guess Coach DeBellis really helped me out with that. I mean, I think he already knew that I had some background with martial arts. And I did some jiu-jitsu previously in middle school. I did that for like half a year. And I don't know if Coach DeBellis caught wind of that, but he kept on approaching me through like 7th and 8th grade. It was like, you want to wrestle? You want to wrestle? He kept on asking me. And I don't know. I think like Kirby Atlas actually, like he came up to me like in the fall of my freshman year in high school, and like I don't know, I saw him, and he jacked kid, like really cool guy. It started got me interested into it more, and actually doing it with the team at school. So that really I guess pushed me as well as Bing and the older guys as well. So
that's awesome. Shawn, how about you?
So I've been watching these, so I had to think back and like low-key, remember what it was for me. I wrestled 1 year in middle school. I don't think you guys know this. I was a Section 9 guy in middle school.
Yeah, I remember.
Yes, I knew that.
Yeah, I remember.
You were in Menacing Valley, right?
So before you finish this story,
Monroe Woodbury.
Coach DeBellis told me that or I don't know how he knew you were coming over, like you were moving to the district, but he was excited because you had some wrestling experience, and he's like, "There's a guy coming with wrestling experience to the district." I remember that conversation.
And it was Monroe Woodbury, right?
Yeah, it was Monroe.
And Monroe Woodbury is like, Section 9 powerhouse, state powerhouse.
Almost as good as us.
Yeah, they got a good team.
So I remember the last couple of years. But go on, Shawn.
No, it's all good. I tried to get in 7th grade. I missed like the cutoff. I don't even know what sparked the interest, but actually 8th grade I ended up doing it mainly because I had a friend of mine who was, in middle school. He was one of the guys wrestling on varsity, right? And he was doing well. So that was kind of my introduction to the sport. Went there to kind of go hang out with friends and learn about it. Moved around a bit. I moved to a high school freshman year that didn't have wrestling, so didn't wrestle. And then when I got to Greeley, I wanted to get into it, and I met Brock and Rudy really early on. So ended up following through and getting in the room.
Awesome.
Did you play football as well, Shawn?
Yeah, I played football and lacrosse for a short period of time.
Lacrosse is actually kind of fun. But anyway, so I have 2 little stories for both of you guys that I remember for both of your guys' career that I found interesting. We'll get to those. I'd rather maybe slowly go through your guys' introduction of varsity wrestling, like your 9th grade years, or like what made you when you walked in the room, what was your first feeling? Like, how was it for you? Rudy, like how did your first reaction to walking into the Greeley wrestling room? First practice, first week, whatever it may have been.
I didn't really know what to expect, but all I remember is like my first year, like sometimes before practice, like Kirby and I or Bing, whoever wanted to, like we would do like a little bit of jiu-jitsu. I remember I was comfortable on my back for a little bit, and I had to get that out of my mind really quickly because in jiu-jitsu, like it's okay if you're on your back. You're actually better. You don't want to turn your back to an opponent because you get rear naked choked. But I just remember being like, maybe for the first few days, a little nervous, but I just got excited quickly because like I just enjoyed the competition of it. And the older guys, at least when I was a freshman, they just like inspired me to be there, and like it motivated me to like work out more and take care of myself, and it was just fun to be there, honestly. Yeah.
Who was seniors, Rudy, when you were we lost Shawn there.
Wow.
Was that Bing and those guys, or were they juniors?
No, they were juniors. So the people above, I can't even remember their names right now.
But you came onto the team, basically, he came on the team my second year coaching. Mm-hmm. Because Bing and those guys were a sophomore when I started coaching. When I started coaching. So shoot, who would be seniors that year? Russo.
Yeah, Russo, right. John
Russo's
right.
class. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Here comes Shawn. So we'll get Shawn with the same question. But yeah, that you were on a good team, and I like that those older guys. I really think those older guys did a really good job of like making the younger guys feel good. Like to this day, like Bing Bing literally just texted me before we got on, because everybody seems to be hyped up about wrestling now since we've been doing these, you know, and they're like falling back. Like Bing said, like some guy sent him a Snapchat today, one of his like I don't want to say co-soldiers. I don't know what the right word is, but he's a kid that he wrestled in high school and goes, Bing Bing, you beat this guy in high school and he saw your interview or something along those lines. Like I find that to be pretty cool. But Shawn, so Rudy kind of answered saying that he was a little nervous, but he loved the competition and had to change a little stuff with, you know, jiu-jitsu habits. He was doing jiu-jitsu with Kirby and Bing or whatever before practice. What was your first like taste of wrestling when you first came to our, you know, to Greeley's varsity team?
Yeah, you know, like I look back and I have like, you know, really fond memories of it, despite it being like a hard thing. Even initially, it was the value I was getting was way more so to be around like friends. You know, I just gotten to Greeley my sophomore year, and it was so huge to have wrestling right off the bat. And that was like pretty much, you know, the immediate thing. I don't remember, you know, drastically. Obviously, wrestling's tough. I don't remember though. It being like an insane year or anything like that when I got in. And instead it was like a lot more memories of just like, you know, having a good time with friends and stuff like that in the room.
Yeah. And that was a good team. When you guys were sophomores, we talked about that in yesterday's interview. That was probably one of our top 3 teams. I mean, you know, Scotty, we had 5 all-section guys that year. You know, a bunch of really tough guys. And then you guys followed that up and you guys were with another good team the next year with guys like Mitchell and
right.
You know, and then eventually Brock and those guys. So like I said, you guys got to kind of see it all with Jacob, Baron, and Matt, our next crew of superstars being like the middle school guys when you guys were coming out, right, and leaving. Do you remember maybe seeing those guys when they were young? You know, like some of the guys that end up being superstars, like when you guys were, you know, seniors or they were 9th graders or they were 8th graders or whatever it may have been. Do you remember like saying like, oof, these kids might have something? Ryan, you go first.
I remember them coming into like some practices or I think I stayed after for like 1 or 2 of the sessions, just open mats or whatever it was. And I wasn't able to wrestle them, but I definitely heard some claims about them being really good, like a lot of them. So I was excited for that. That was really awesome to hear.
I have a funny story. I'm gonna let Shawn answer the question, but about another young kid that's younger than you, about you, Ryan. But Shawn, do you remember? Like, it doesn't have to be those 3. It could be, you know, Joe Sasso's younger than you now. Like, I had those 3 ended up being the 3, you know, 3 all-state guys in 1 year. But you know, do you remember seeing Shawn like, hey, like, you know, there's a lot of good guys before us, but I could feel that this program's still going in the right direction?
Yeah, I absolutely, you know, did feel like a positive trajectory. Every year we improved, you know, my being there. And that was a big thing actually, was like the sentiment, you know, even from Rudy and I, you know, I only got there sophomore year, but each year was everybody from our grade to the grades below, where it was incrementally improving every year. Right. So that was, and we were already at like pretty substantial or doing well rather, like my sophomore year. And yeah, as for kids coming up, dude, yeah, I used to beat up on Jacob, you know, a bunch when I was there, right? He was, I don't know if it was my junior or senior year, he had just gotten in and up to varsity. But you know, I obviously followed the program and then I watched him go out there and, you know, become a state runner up, and it was like the craziest thing to me, you know what I mean?
He's a beast.
And, yeah, he's a beast, man. It's crazy to see it.
Ryan, and I'll let Coach up, but I'm sorry, but I just had this in my head. So who was on here? It was Joe Sasso. Did you watch any of these, Ryan, or no?
Unfortunately not, no.
Okay, you'll like them. There's a couple good ones. But Joe was talking about like a turning point for him is when he realized he wasn't what he thought he was. Like he went to, I don't know if did he say he went to a Greeley practice or he saw Ryan at the club? I don't know how he wrestled. I forgot where he wrestled you. But this was before he was on varsity. He was like an 8th grader or something. And you must have beat the crap out of him. And I think he started to realize like, wow, like, you know, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was and I need a lot of work to do. And you got to think about stuff like that. To me, that stuff's super important, right? That stuff's super important because I could go 2 ways, right? Joe could go the wrong way with it and be negative and not want to wrestle, or it could go the way that it did go. And Joe's like, I need to get better. I need to get better if I want to be able to compete with these guys. And if it wasn't for guys like Ryan and Shawn, that generation after wouldn't have been as successful. I really believe that.
I think it's crazy to think about actually, because I had that same relationship with Kirby. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think what you guys do as coaches really well is you create a culture of like competition and wanting to get back at it, you know. And I always felt that, like, even if I was like so mad or like annoyed with Kirby, like the next day I'd be like totally, you know, that's just on the mat. You know, you get off the mat, your boys, like we're always hanging out in school, and then you get back on and you wanna try to outperform him. You want to finally take him down. You finally want to do that. And like, man, I love wrestling Joe. Joe and I were boys. I was actually just thinking about him because I talked to Shawn yesterday. We just like caught up randomly. But I live close to Joe, and I was passing his house. I was like, what is Joe Sasso up to right now?
I
Like,
should text him. The whole Sasso clan is in that house as we speak.
I was literally thinking of just messaging him right there and being like, what's going on? Like,
Anthony Sasso is one of our modified coaches now, so he's back in the program.
I heard it's crazy.
He did
He did a really good job.
Really good coach.
Yeah, he did a really good job this year for us. But shoot, I had a thought, but where am I going with this?
Here, I can interrupt real quick.
Go ahead, Shawn. Go.
Yeah, even with Rudy mentioning Kirby, like the year, just the same way, you know, we probably helped those kids under us. The year above us was a big factor too. Mitchell beating up on me when I was younger, you know.
Mitchell was good.
I learned a ton. I learned what I really remember appreciating from wrestling him was kind of picking up like a funkier style of wrestling. You know what I mean? And I enjoyed it, right?
Your partner makes everything. I really feel like that.
Absolutely.
And Coach, I want you to jump in on this one. And the boys, you guys should listen to this too, because to me, this is really interesting. We've been not lucky, we work hard and the kids work hard and we have good support for our program, but we've been, I don't know, maybe blessed is a better word, I don't know what it is, but we've had a good program, right?
We work hard.
For almost 10 years. Yeah, we work hard. My first year coaching, when me and Coach DeBellis first got together, was a rough year, right? But Coach DeBellis had a great youth program. So we saw the guys coming up and they were going to do a good job. But Scotty Wims and John Russo had nobody that set the example before them, unless it was like 10 years before them.
No.
And they went out there and they did it. From that point on, up until this year, there has been somebody ahead of them, ahead of the next person that they could look up to. So, for example, you had Scotty and Russo. You know, Bing and Kirby could look up to Russo. And then Ryan could look up to Kirby. And then Joe Sasso could look up to Ryan, and it kept going, right? And for Shawn, you know, Mitchell was looking up to maybe Scotty, and then Shawn could look up to Mitchell, and then Jacob Ferrer could look up to Shawn, and you know, and it keeps going, right? It's that thing. And I think that's one reason we struggled a little bit this year. We were very young this year. You know, we had a lot of 9th and 10th graders starting. We had 0 returning section qualifiers. You know, we had a state champ. We had 2 all-state wrestlers year before, and 1 being a state champ. So it was a different year. But we went from 0 qualifiers to 8. We had a bunch of kids that had, you know, losing records last year that had winning records this year. There's this kid overall as a sophomore, started as a sophomore, went 0-25 or 0-30 as a sophomore, went 20 and like 15 this year. So they're doing the right things, but one of those guys are going to have to wrestle like one of you guys and start that. And then once they start, that'll be easier for the next grade and the next grade and the next grade, I think, to keep it going, right? You got to keep that like snowball rolling, and we kind of got stopped for a year. And now we got to get the snowball rolling. Would you say that's a thing?
Yeah, I like what Bill Swarfager said about that, where they try to squeeze 2 years into one, and I think that's what we did last year. I think we really, because we had to do a lot more of the mentoring because there wasn't a lot of kids there to mentor them. You know, you had freshmen and sophomore all starting. They didn't know. They were feeling it out for themselves. So we had to really step in there and kind of mentor the relationship.
It was different for these guys. By the time Ryan and Shawn were seniors, we were trying to get them over the top. Right. It wasn't like, hey, like, don't get pinned here, stay off your back, win the little battles. It was like, hey, you guys could do something substantial. This year it was, you know, hey, let's get better every day because we got a long way to go. And they did. But like, it was just a different feel. That's pretty much what I'm getting at there. But I don't know, for you guys, what was there a turning point where you were like, this is not just wrestling, it's not just whatever, like, I really like this, I want to get better at it? Was there like a moment that like hit you that was kind of like, you know, I'm not just doing this for a house, because you both were successful. You both ended up being leaders of the team. What made you jump from just being on the team to being a leader in the team? You know, Ryan, you go first if you have anything.
I mean, I think I started really giving into like a workout routine going into sophomore year. So just feeling better physically about myself and taking sophomore year on, you know, fresh and ready to go. I think that was good. But was there like a turning point? What was the question again? I want to
step it up. When did you say, "Oh, this isn't an activity. I'm serious about this"?
Yeah, I would probably say beginning sophomore year. Just because like I think I just felt better going into it. I think I also started Deagles like I started going a little bit right after freshman year for a bit, and also working out. I think that's when I got definitely a little more serious. Yeah.
No, it's a hard question, but like every once in a while you'll see kids, and I was talking to Coach Marino today, Ryan. We were gonna try to get him on here, but he recalls you winning a really tough match last week, and he was coaching you once, and I don't remember what year that was, but I'm thinking in my head, 'cause I could kind of see, so much of it blends together that I could kind of see it in my head, but I can't remember what grade you were in, and I feel like if that was a younger grade, that could be like a hard fought match in an uncomfortable place. I feel like it's the time when you're kind of like, I could do this. Like, a lot of kids, and you guys could both speak on this, and Shawn, I'll let you answer that other question in a second too, but a lot of kids don't realize what they have in them until they go through those dark waters and they figure it out and they win in that match, right? Like it's a brawl and they find a way to win. And then now all of a sudden you're a new person because you just saw you could do that, right? And sometimes there is a specific match, or sometimes it's a series of matches that kind of put you in that position. So it's a tough question, but I bet you if you keep thinking about it tonight, you might be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like I bet you'll come up with something. But Shawn, do you have anything in there?
Yeah, I have like a sentiment, and that was a really good point you made, by the way, George. But yeah, for me, it was like two things as I was thinking about it. One was, being part of the team. Sophomore year I just gotten there, but junior year, I guess I had started to, switch gears a little bit mentally, and a lot of that came from seeing other guys on the team really want it. And yes, wrestling is an individual sport, but it is also a team sport, right? So there's a lot of that and wanting to do stuff for your team. And there was, if I had to think of a match.
Oh no. A match.
He's thinking. Hold on, give him a minute.
I'm on the edge of my seat right now.
Oh, what's gonna happen? What's he gonna say?
Oh my gosh. I was gonna add, go ahead, Coach. You were gonna say something?
What all these things that are just coming together, like with all the interviews, and you see that that light bulb go off in their head, and it's like, oh man, that's when they turn the corner, which is great. How could we get the kids to make that connection quicker? I know it has a lot to do with age. You come in as a 13-year-old, you're leaving as a 17-year-old, say. So you're doing a lot of transformation, But how can we make that connection quicker for the kids? I know they have to do it, but
I think honestly, who doesn't love fun, right? Like
I hate it, but
if you can, I'm not saying wrestling is. I had such a blast. Like honestly, after it ended, like there are times throughout college where I was like, wow, like I really wish I got back into the art of wrestling. Like I'm still looking for it. Like I'm still looking to, and that's why I emailed you. Like I don't know how long ago, but I'm still looking for something to do with a group of people, a group of guys, and get back into it. Either wrestling or jiu-jitsu. I think the competition really got to my head, but I think incorporating like some sort of like if there are wrestling games or like something that after that also having heartfelt conversations, because a lot of the times that I really enjoyed it is when we did like the meditations or like sitting in a group like after like a really hard practice and like Totoro or DeValis or whoever the coach was, Hall, that we just sit in like a little circle, after we're sweating profusely.
I love that. I have a hard time stopping, but I like doing that.
And I think it's great because you get to learn more about like what you guys are thinking about and potentially hearing other people hearing what their reflections are. And I think just that idea of like coming closer through the mind is it really helps people get along with the picture, because you get to see values come together between
the physical and the emotional and the mental all together.
Yes,
that makes sense. Yeah.
And before we get back to Shawn there, to jump on the fun point, Ryan, it's interesting that you say that, because when we really got to the point where we were really good, in the sense with the year we had the 3 all-state wrestlers, right? James state finalists, Aaron and Matt placed that year. We had a lot of solid guys on the team. And I remember they played handball pretty much every day to warm up, every day, because they could, right? Like this year we did it sometimes, but not as much because there was so much they need. Like you said, we had to fit like almost 2 seasons in one. There was just so much work to do because they didn't even know how to be in a wrestling stance. Like we didn't want anybody to get hurt out there. It's like we need to get to work. and I think you guys don't know Khalid as well. I don't know if Khalid was ever on the coaching staff with you guys. I don't think so. But he's a funny guy. He's like, Coach Bells is a funny guy, but he can be serious when he wants to. Coach Khalid is more on the other side where he's the jokester. But it's actually a good thing, right? It's actually a good thing because when I'm like so serious and I'm like, I want to win, I want you guys to work hard, I want you guys to do this, and then he like makes a joke towards me, and then I make one back at him, and we're like making fun of each other. The kids get a kick out of that, and it's like a mood lightening that kind of needs to happen sometimes.
I'll give you a for instance.
Uh-oh.
Takura will be going off on a tangent, and Khalid will say, Coach, do you remember when you were tough? Do you remember? But, like everybody will be like, wait, how do we take this guy?
And Khalid's a little bit overweight. He'll talk about like he's going to beat me up. All I have to do is go kick him arm on the floor, and he'll do nothing. And that's kind of where we're at right now. But Shawn, you like when you froze, you were in the middle. I think about to say a match, and then like you froze.
Yeah. My bad. My phone was overheating. I was sitting in the sun.
That happens.
Yeah. The match that came to mind with that question of like what was a turning point for me was my junior year sectionals.
Wait, can I say it before you even say it?
Yeah, you could say it. Go ahead.
The 5th seed or the 4th seed?
Yeah, exactly. It was the 5th seed. I didn't even have expectations. I didn't even know I was on deck. Somebody was like, "Hey, you're wrestling over here." Like, oh crap! Let me run over there. You know what I mean? Rip off my pants, jump in the singlet. And yeah, like I had known the kid too, but I had zero expectations about where I was. I remember just kind of like after winning it, it was a close match too, maybe like 4-2, 3-2. But just having that done and like having having come away with the win was like a feeling of, okay, maybe I can actually do this, or
fired up.
take it a little seriously.
Yeah. I was pretty fired up about that one.
Yeah.
And that definitely, I'm sure, helped you going forward to your senior year. What were you going to say, Coach? I'm sorry.
He started as a sophomore pretty much. I mean, he wrestled a modified season.
Yeah.
With 90 kids on your team in Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Garteezer was probably the coach too.
Say again?
Garteezer was probably the coach.
I literally could not tell you. I remember their faces. I don't remember their names.
Yep. And then 3 seasons and what he did. It's unbelievable.
No, Shawn got good, really good. Ryan, how did it help you having, like, for a while, weren't you and Elijah pretty much working out a lot with each other for a long time there? Did it help having somebody that was like, not, Joe worked out hard with you, I'm sure, towards the end there, but like, he was a little younger, he was tough, he was a good workout partner, but was it good to have, I know Elijah got hurt, I think, his senior year, or something happened there towards the end of the year.
Yeah, I think he hurt his leg, right?
Yeah, he was out for a while. I don't know if he wrestled division. I don't think he wrestled divisionals.
Yeah. I mean, it's always great to have a workout partner, and Joe is a tough kid.
But the question more is like somebody your age too, your peer, and you guys can kind of relate maybe a little bit more. You're going through it together.
I think there's something to be said about to breed accountability. You want the team to do well, and everybody who is on the team should have that same feeling. They should want the team to do well, right? Mm-hmm. And if you have that feeling, like when you go to the gym and you set times to be there, I would always be at the workouts, like those November workouts, like way before season, I'd be there, even though I was exhausted and I didn't want to be there. Like I felt an accountability towards the team and a responsibility to be there. And I don't exactly know how to breed that culture or that habit, but if you can, and especially with not even just within the same age group, but just throughout the whole entire organization, like that's when that your team is just well oiled. When everybody from a freshman and a senior, they could somehow get together, be doing pull-ups together, in their own respective weights, but doing it together, I think that's huge.
I agree with that. And I think as a coach, it's something you love to see, right? And not only with the getting better thing, we always talk about being the best version of yourself. I probably talked about that when you guys were around too, but like, helping your teammate is part of being the best version of yourself too, right? It's not all about you. You don't have like, but if it, it's weird because, wrestling in a way, sometimes, and Greg Ironfrank said it really good in his interview, like at some points that was the most selfish he's ever been, right? But at the same time, helping his team. Right? Like he had to worry about, because it's an individual sport and it's a team sport, right? So if your workout partner's not cutting it, you might have to go to the next guy. You first try to get him up and say, hey, like, I need you to go a little harder. Can we drill a little hard? But you might have to move on because you have to look out for you. And if you're doing your job, you're doing a job for the team at the same time, So that's why I love wrestling, because there's so many like different ways you could cut it, right? Like, individual, team, what you do individually helps the team. And Shawn, you're not going to like this question because it's a curveball because I haven't asked this yet. And I'm just thinking of it now, and you guys might not have an answer because it's a hard one, but it could be
I
a
got
really
a question
cool.
too after you're done.
It could be a really cool one. We'll go
Yeah.
Ryan and then Shawn. Actually, you know what? I'll put Shawn on the spot first because I've been putting Ryan on the spot first every time.
Okay.
Do you have a memory of something that was really like awesome and inspiring that another teammate did that like you were like, this is really cool? Like, you know, and it doesn't have, and it could be a Brock moment because he was really good, but it could be a lesser guy getting a big win that he you know, really meant something to him and it was cool. Like, do you have a moment that kind of wasn't Shawn moment? It was somebody else and you're like, I love this. This is cool.
I have like a lot of really positive ones too. Like, I got just as excited about, Max Browdy going out there and wrestling as I did Brock.
Yeah, I love that.
But one of the ones that I do remember is a Brock match, and it was his section final against Grella, just because it was an absolute dogfight, and in a lot of ways, it was just it got you so fired up, right, to see one of your guys go out there and legitimately like go into battle, right, but like give it like every ounce that he had. That's probably the first match that comes to mind around that.
That was a fun match. I mean, even though he lost, that was a fun. And he lost. It wasn't that close. It was close in a sense where it was a fight. But Brock was younger. He was a junior. Grella was a senior. And Brock was making like, I don't want to say rookie mistakes because he was a good wrestler. He was a section finalist. But he kept walking right into Grella's attacks. But he kept coming back up and kept going back at him. It was great.
It was a classic Brock match, right? Like legitimately, you can throw everything at him, put a straight up brick wall in front of him, and he will just keep running into it. You know what I mean? If
they put no time limit on that match, Brock wins it.
That
keeps going. Brock finds a way to win that match. Ryan, you got one?
That's tough because it's like
there's so much.
Sort of like it just compartmentalized for me. But a lot of people inspired me, honestly. Like I felt like I was surrounded by just like so many awesome people. Like truthfully. Just like being in practices, even like I said, in preseason, just doing the runs on the track, just seeing people who were there and like hauling ass, and like doing the backwards bear crawls up a hill, like that sucked, but people were doing it quick. And the people who could get knocked down and get back up. I mean, Brock was always like one of those kids. Like I wish like that. I mean, Shawn and I were talking about this yesterday. How we like to give into that sort of mentality more. Just to suck it up and know that you're going to be okay. Like that pain is, as they say, just part of your mind. But that is a hard mentality. But just like seeing that is exciting and definitely inspiring for sure.
That's cool. That's a good answer. I mean, I'm with that for sure. Now, I'm thinking of the two moments I had in my head for you guys, and I want to talk a little bit about your senior years, and then we can talk a little bit about post wrestling and all that stuff. But Ryan, if I recall, you wrestled Fox Lane, and you lost to a kid you should not have lost to.
Was it Matthias?
Who was it? Do you remember the kid? I don't remember the kid.
I don't. Matthias.
No.
Wasn't it what? It was somebody that was.
I think we talked about this yesterday, right?
But here's the point, and this is not to bring up a dig. This is actually a positive because you wrestled that same kid at divisionals.
Pounded him at Greeley.
And
I do remember.
Yeah, we had about 2 or 3 guys do that.
And two I could think of him and Nadler. Him and Nadler both lost against Fox Lane. And I think we lost by 1 or 2 points, and then they both beat the kid at divisionals. But my point is that, to me that it sucked to lose in the dual meet, right? But again, just like the Sasso thing, I feel like that could have went 2 ways. It could have really hurt your confidence going into wrestling that kid again at a tournament where if you lose to him, you might not go to the next thing, right? Like there's a lot of pressure on that tournament. So I think that says a lot about you going out there and getting that win back, right? And I think that says something about the team as a program because I like to pride ourselves on peaking at the right time and we're competing, other than the league championship and now Section 1 duels, like to me, dual meets really don't mean crap, right? Like I want to beat Fox Lane just because they're our rivals. And at that point, I don't know if we had beaten them or we beat them the next year, but they were beating us for a long time in a row. So I kind of had a little – extra I want to beat them. But at the end of the day, divisional, sectional, states, that's what matters, right? And you beat them really when it mattered. And I think that says a lot about your mindset. Do you remember, like, maybe you don't remember as well as I do. I just remember you losing to them and getting it back. And I remember that being important to me.
I do remember losing to him because I was actually talking to Shawn about this yesterday. I was supposed to wrestle their number one in my weight class, which what was his name?
Grippy. I think it was Grippy.
Matt Griffey or
Oh, it's
something.
probably Matt,
He
yeah.
was supposed to wrestle him, and I think he deferred to wrestle up a weight class and
Yeah.
wrestle sent his I don't know the number B or letter B to me.
Yeah.
And I remember like just losing to that, and I'm just like being so defeated. Honestly, like I think I went to the locker room and just like sat there for a few minutes, just pondered what happened. Like I just doubted myself, and I mean that's just it just sucks, you know, because like I shouldn't doubt myself. Nobody should really doubt themselves, you know. Doubt your doubts, you know. But it's crazy that you actually remember me beating him. I actually didn't even remember that I
Really?
no.
I remember that too.
Well, that's because like we've talked about in a lot of these interviews, and you know, Sean's one of our fans, so he's probably heard these. But like you remember your losses far more than you remember your wins. Like that's just a fact of life. Like you know, I can remember some of my wins in high school, sure, you know, but I could really talk you through my losses. You know, I could tell you who I beat, and if it was a good kid, I could be like, oh, I beat that kid, you know, whatever. But if I lost, I won't only tell you I lost to him. I'll tell you how I lost to him and what happened. You know, it kind of stays in your brain a little different.
That's how you learn. That's how you learn.
You need it. You need it.
If you don't think about that stuff, it's going to happen again.
Of course.
Well, and it drives you. And we could talk about that after. I'm going to get to Shawn on this, but I really believe that, you know, for me personally, right, if I won a state title my senior year, maybe I wouldn't have that same passion going into college. And if I was a, you know, NCAA champ or American college, maybe I wouldn't have took the same passion into Greeley wrestling. Maybe this does happen for a reason, right? But then again, maybe I win a state title and I do have the same passion. I'm not saying you don't know, but to me, that has something to do with my fire. For me, you know, it might be different for different people, but I use that for good. I think, and it's the same thing. It's one of those things that could go either way. You could use it for good, or you could let it eat you up inside. And there's no reason to let it eat you up inside because you got to keep going. Life doesn't end after wrestling, so you got to figure it out. You know. But Shawn, what I was going to talk about you earlier, I was thinking more about your junior year again, that upset, because that was big. Your senior year, you were kind of, you know, you were there. You were like 5th or 6th seat going into the tournament, and you ended up taking 4th, if I recall, right? 4th.
Yep.
Just that run, because I think you lost in the quarters, and you lost to the Nyack kid, I believe, in the quarters, and I think you lost him again for 3rd and 4th. Is that correct?
Yeah, I lost to him for 3rd and 4th, and I had met him earlier in the tournament, and I had lost to him as well.
I'm good, man. My memory's not bad.
Yeah.
Been hit in the head a lot of times, but I got a good memory. See me in 5 years, we'll see where I'm at. But yeah, so like the same thing as Rudy in a sense where you didn't get the win back, but when you're a senior and you're in a big tournament like that and you're seated pretty high with expectations that you could do really well, and even though, you know, it was a 5-4 match, it's just hard. It's hard to come back. It's hard to come back. A lot of times, I don't know if you guys heard this story. I don't know if we spoke about it in the interview, but I think maybe a year or two after you guys, Andre Nesbitt was in the wrestlebacks, and the number 1 seed lost in the like quarters or whatever. And I remember Andre sitting next to me, and we were watching, and I'm like, watch him. And the kid
Harrison kid.
Yeah, Harrison kid. Yep, good memory. And the kid went to like the mats, the side mats. He was crying and he was punching the wall and he was doing all that stuff. I looked at Andre. I'm like, this is an opportunity to take him out because he's not going to be prepared coming back in this next match. And to me, it doesn't matter if you lose 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round, you're the 5th, 1st, 3rd seed. At the big tournament, like the championship tournament, it's hard to respond. And you responded with like 2 or 3 wins in a row. Do you remember like to get to that 3rd, 4th match? Do you remember that journey kind of going back and getting to that 3rd, 4th match, Shawn? Uh-oh.
He's thinking about it.
I feel like Shawn's a technically savvy guy, and he's stuck here. While I'm the guy that knows nothing about technology, and knock on wood, I haven't froze once.
Well, I think he's off his phone or something.
In the meantime, I actually have another answer.
Right, get in there, yeah.
I remember wrestling Anthony Sasso, and I felt like there was like a time our senior year where he just did not stop, and like he just kept on trying to tackle me and like get after me and like it was just like I just remember that, and also just like doing sprints back and forth. We were doing like hardcore sprints towards like the end of seasons, and Joe was always like my little competitor, you know, and he'd be like outrunning me, and it would make me like a little mad, but also like excited, and not mad. Mad's not the right word, but like sort of like I wanted to compete more, you know. It felt good to
fired up,
but to see him grow as well, it was like really exciting, you know, to see like all it was just awesome, you know.
That's cool. I like, and I like to hear that about Anthony too, because Anthony wasn't typically, he did come along his senior year a lot. He got a lot better and he changed. I wish he started maybe a little younger, because he wasn't, Ryan, you had the jujitsu stuff, you were doing combat stuff. Like, that wasn't Anthony's DNA at that time, and he developed it as he went. And now as a coach, when me and Coach DeBellis were talking about hiring Anthony Sasso, the big thing was that I knew that Anthony could do anything for the kids. And he does. He does a phenomenal job. And he's good at breaking stuff down. Like, coaching might be one, like, right up that guy's alley. And if you guys know our coaching staff, it's me and DeBellis. It's this kid Khalid, who you guys are a little older than. And then there's Alex Dela Cruz. Do you guys remember Alex Dela Cruz? Yeah. He's our other coach. He's our other modified coach. So you got, like, I like to think that I know wrestling pretty well, and Coach DeBellis does, and Alex does, right? And Anthony does too, but he doesn't have maybe the credentials we have, but he does a phenomenal job. And you don't need him sometimes if you understand the kids and you know how to coach. And I think he did fantastic this year. But Shawn, I'm sorry, you froze. You were doing this and thinking when we were talking about how you felt going through the run in the wrestlebacks.
Yeah, I'm probably setting a record for technical difficulties.
But between me and you did make fun of my technical skills earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, you got me. But yeah, as for what was I thinking, funny enough, I have I took away a negative sentiment, but it was a lesson learned. And it goes back to what you were talking about, that to be honest, looking back, I absolutely should have, and I think I was able to have beaten that kid. I remember the first match I had with him, I took him down real quick. And, I just, taking notes from other interviews I've heard. Nadler put it well, just like he wanted it more than me at that time. And, for a long time, I had like a negative feeling in my gut about that. Even with my last match, having lost it, just knowing that I could have done something, it felt bad. But watching Paul's interview, because he brought up something similar, Rudy mentioned something similar yesterday, and what you were just saying, Coach, was that definitely turned into something for me going forward. It turned into like knowing, the work that needs to get put in to achieve certain things that I want, and more importantly, just being really clear about what your goals and expectations are. And you could boil this a lot of ways, but also just kind of knowing there's a higher bar in terms of like realizing your potential. You know what I'm saying? So I took all those things after the fact, but as for going through that run, I have like a negative thing to say, in that I got like kind of complacent in some regards, and I should have, that's what it's turned into, is now me realizing, that I don't want that feeling again, and that I'm going to make sure to, avoid it going forward.
Well, that's a big thing, Shawn. And I actually remember that third, fourth match. I think I remember you getting that takedown the first match too. And I was pretty much counting my was that saying, count my chicken eggs before they hatch or whatever. I thought it was going to take it to that kid, because I remember how the first match started. But like I said, it's a long journey coming back. It's a tough tournament. But talking to the kids now, and I don't know if you asked me or Ryan asked me about like what we were doing workout wise and stuff like that. But we were talking the other day, because now we're 3 months in or whatever, however long this has been. It's been a while, right? And a lot of these kids on our team now, we're young, but they're starting to really buy in. Like, we have about 7 or 8 guys at the club, working. They're doing the right stuff. I'm very impressed with them, proud of them, doing a really good job. But now this hit all of a sudden, like the wrong time, but it hit for everybody. So it's not only going to affect them, but, I was talking to them the other day. I'm like, look, the first month of this quarantine, you guys are probably hyped up to get those workouts in, because I'm sending you these workouts. You want to be different than everybody else. But like you said, it's very easy to get complacent now. You're 3 months in. What's going to motivate you? And we talked about it the other day, and I was like, you need to remember, like Shawn's talking about that third, fourth match, you need to remember that loss. Because that feeling it doesn't completely go away, but the sting kind of goes away. And I love Matt Grippy to death, and I hope he listens to these, and I hope he doesn't take this the wrong way. But his junior year, he lost in the state finals. He was very upset, and we talked. And I'm like, hey, like, you got to train really hard. He's like, I'll never miss another practice, blah, blah, blah. And now Matt trained harder than the average Joe, But here comes the summertime, and here goes me calling Matt Grippy, where you at? You're not in practice, where you at? Because he forgot the feeling, right? If he had practice the next day after states, he would have trained like a madman. But he forgot the feeling, and it's too easy to get complacent and forget that feeling sometimes. So sometimes, hopefully you don't need extra motivation really, but if you do, I'm sure you could think of something that'll get you fired up. I'm sure everybody could think of something that'll get you fired up. Last thing, wrestling-wise, I want to say, because I'm thinking, in my head, I think both you guys had 2 big dual meet wins against John Jay, but different years.
Oh, Shawn definitely.
I think Ryan did his
Shawn Cross
senior
River.
year. Against a tough friggin' kid. What was that kid's name? It was a good match. I remember being very fired up after you beat him. And we lost that year, your senior year, but we wrestled them tough. And I think, I can't remember. Do you remember? It was like a 3-2 match, Ryan. You know what I'm talking about or no? It might have been Kramer. Was it Kramer at the Bells?
Kramer was from, wasn't Kramer from Suffern?
No, it was another, the Kramer that was 120, 126, 132.
Yeah.
John Jay. I can't remember, but I know for a fact Shawn was, because Shawn's match was definitely John Jay and Rudy. You probably remember this one. I mean, this was one of my favorite matches of.
It was alumni night.
At John Jay?
It was your guys' junior year. It was alumni. I think I lost 5 years of my life during this match because at the time, John Jay, I think, just finished having like a wave of being really good.
Yeah.
So we were catching them. And it was alumni night. Coach DeBellis did a really good job of packing the gym. It was one of the best crowds we probably ever had. It was packed. And it came down to the last match. It was Shawn against Isaac Frank. Yeah, it was Isaac Frank. Evan Frank's brother.
Miles Frank, I think.
Miles Frank. Isaac's the littlest brother. Yeah, I get them confused.
Evan was the other brother, I remember.
Evan, there's 3 of them, and there is an Isaac.
Oh, gotcha.
Isaac's youngest. So if I remember correctly, it was a back and forth match. I think I like threw up in my mouth like 4 or 5 times. And Shawn won by 1, and we won the dual meet by 1. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's pretty much how I remember it. Yeah.
Holy cow! Ryan, I want you to talk too, because as a teammate, that was probably a fun friggin' dual meet. But when I walked out for a second to get air because my leg, it was too much. Like I had to walk out. I get a little crazy, so I walked out into like the entrance of the gym area, and Renata Sasso walked by me, and I put my hands down to my knees, and I go, oh, and she's like, "You're right." I'm like, "Yeah, I think I'll be fine." I had to walk back inside. I had to like catch my breath. Both of you could talk on that. That was a fun night, man. That duel was great. Do you guys remember that? I know Shawn does. Ryan, do you remember that duel?
I remember parts of it. Like I said, like a lot of things have blended together about high school. Honestly.
It's tough. It's hard. You know what's crazy? And I'll just say this real quick is that talking to you guys brings back a lot of other things. You know,
sure.
It's
I forgot that until you said that about Shawn. I mean, I remember that it was Shawn. I remembered that moment a lot of times, but through the whole interview, I didn't put the two.
And that's when I
together.
became a teacher, technically, because DeBellis got on the mic that same dual meet. DeBellis got on the mic and said, "Coach Torre just got his master's in teaching. If anybody knows of any teaching jobs," and that's when that guy.
Oh yeah, Clyde Canashera.
Got my resume, and I've been at that school ever since.
Wow.
So you should give me 10%.
I should give Shawn 10% for winning and making that guy happy. If we gave him a bad show, he wouldn't have gave my resume on.
You know, Clyde's back in Chappaqua too.
What do you mean, living?
Yeah,
Oh,
I just heard that.
Good
I'll
for
reach
him.
out.
He would random. You guys probably don't remember this guy, but he would come to
That's a great
practice. Very nice guy, but loved wrestling and loved the fact that we were getting pretty good. So when we would wrestle Salesian like really duels, we would beat him like 80-0. We would like put it on him. And he started coming to our practice every once in a while, like watching and taking notes. He asked if it was okay, but he would like watch and take notes. And I thought that was like the funniest thing.
He was from Hawaii too, that guy.
Very nice guy, though. Very nice guy. All right, so let's talk about what you guys are doing now. So you guys are you guys are graduating.
Hey, we never heard about Shawn. Never talked about how he felt after winning that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Shawn. Yeah, I start blabbing again like I do.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I definitely, naturally remember that match. I was really sick that day, and I wasn't going to wrestle. And then, it kept getting closer and closer, and it's like, of course, 52 was the last match. And of course, the score came down to this match, decided to.
Did you tell us you weren't going to wrestle? Was that like a thing, or you were just thinking that in your head?
I might have told DeBellis, and I might have planned on not wrestling at that point, and then probably midway through when the score, ended up getting closer, I started warming up. Yeah, as for what I remember, it's definitely the team part. It's definitely the team stuff. It was right after the match. It was awesome. Everybody just kind of got into a hug, like a group hug type thing. Marino was in the middle of it, like Brock, Rudy. I remember all you guys were there.
That was a great match, man.
Yeah, it was a really good time. And real quick, looping way back to one of your questions about somebody else doing something that I, that I felt proud of. Neil Steiner, if you guys remember him.
Yes, I love Neil.
Steiner,
Dude, this kid came in, I think he came in senior year, right, Rudy and everybody, right?
Your senior year.
Junior, senior year, yeah. He was definitely late in the game.
Yeah, he came towards the end and stuck it out, you know. And at some point during this interview, that popped into my mind, and I wanted to just like shout him out, because that to me was just like a huge achievement. Yeah.
You know what I was thinking of midway through too is, was there ever a time where somebody counseled you, like a teammate counseled you, or you counseled somebody else? Like, because as coaches, we're doing that, you know, because that's our job. But did you feel like the team had your back if you had a down day, or you saw somebody that had a down day? You don't have to give me specifics, but Rudy, what do you think? Was there a time where somebody?
I don't think there was a time where I ever felt like I was not.
Like after a bad loss, is people come to see you?
Yeah, I mean, I always felt like I think generally some space was given first. I think at least partially for me, like I think people knew that like I would be upset about it and they wouldn't confront me right away. But I think a few minutes later, some people would come up to me and just like pat me on the back and all that. And like there was never a time where I felt like somebody was being condescending or like rude about it. Like it was always just support. Like I never felt like I was being belittled in any regard. Yeah.
Yeah, I counseling doesn't come into mind, but there was a lot of kind of mutual rallying for other people, and it was top to bottom. It was top to bottom. Everybody from, you know, a guy like Brock on the team, you know, would be talking to you after a match. And even when I was a senior, Jacob Ferreira was like one of the hypest guys about me placing at sectional, you know what I mean? And so like it legitimately is top to bottom in terms of people supporting each other.
Great.
So yeah.
I like to think we
Really
built a
great.
good family, you know,
Definitely.
atmosphere. You know, it's great. And I don't know, when you guys were in high school, we're still pushing like the cool down and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
so it's cool that we're still doing that. And I don't know if you guys know, I coached an all girls team in the Bronx this past spring, because in the spring, women's wrestling sanctioned in New York City. So I teach in the Bronx. Somehow John got me looped into that, and I love it. And it was supposed to be me going 2 or 3 days a week, but then I couldn't not go every day, and I went to every tournament, and then I ended up bringing the girls up to the club in the summer. But I made them do like the cool down and all that stuff too. And at first they looked at me like I had 10 heads. I was like, let's do it. And then by the end of the year they were doing it. It's great. But coach, the reason I'm bringing that up is that probably has a little bit to do with like that counseling too, though, because like Ryan said, they're going to give you a little time because they're probably doing their cool down. Like win, lose, or draw, you're doing your cool down. That's what you need to do. And then time wears down, the guy calms down, they sit down, somebody might come approach you and like, you know, I don't know. Wrestling is a different sport, I feel like. I feel like you're a state finalist and you lose, you might get that talk with somebody like, hey, you did a great job, don't worry about it. But when you lose a tough dual meet, it's like, I feel like it's that mutual respect, but they also know like, hey, give this guy, I got to worry about my match. I'm going to hit him on the shoulder and say, hey, you know, you're good and walk by him, but I'm not going to, you know, pour my heart to him because we're going to go practice tomorrow. And you're going to have to make up for what just happened. You're going to get better, and that's the plan, you know. Right. But I do think what Coach DeBellis was, and Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, is I do think that he's saying, and I agree, that everybody has everybody's back on the Greeley wrestling team for 99.9% of the time. I think that bond is real. And as you see Shawn and Rudy hooking up talking last night, you know, it just randomly happens, right? Like, you know, Mitchell, I haven't talked to Mitchell in like a year or so. And then we did the interview. It was just like yesterday and it felt like normal. We were back to, you know, everything was the same. And I think that's just because the relationships were real, you know, and I really hope that you too, and we're going to continue. I want to ask real quick about, you know, what you guys are doing post college, but you guys got to get back in the room. You know, you guys got to get back in the room. We had Brock there this winter. We had Jacob, we had Aaron Walk, we had Schreiber, Bing Bing always comes back. I think Kirby's been back. Scotty Wims has been back. Like, you know, you guys are always more than welcome.
Anthony Sasso.
Anthony Sasso's approaching, but yeah, but Joe Sasso's been in the room.
Good youth with us.
You know, match, the CMs were at a CM and Kaufman were at a match. Like, you guys just come in whenever you want.
Definitely.
I just hit me. I'll give you my new email because I really don't check my other one. It's probably whatever it is, or give me your number, whatever. I'll talk because I have Shawn's number, so we could all make sure we have everybody's contacts.
But yeah, you guys are more than welcome. You should come in. I love it when the older guys come in because sometimes I think the younger kids think we're talking out of or you know what, But if they hear from the older guys, the things that strike me a lot in these interviews, like Shawn said, is like the confidence thing, right? Like Nadler said it really well. Like you finally believe that you could be that person, and you're born into that system of being that person. But it's been the same, right? So when we talk to these guys, it's not like we haven't been there, done that with you guys. Like it's a real thing. So I think hearing it from the older guys is an interesting thing. So Rudy, what are you doing now though? Let's hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'll be honest about something real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
There's a large part of time I was like really unsure if I wanted to do this interview too, because it's sort of tough seeing you guys just because like I remember my last match, and I think everybody does, but I was like so defeated, and I felt like I really just like let everything down, and it carried a weight for a bit, where I just felt like I wasn't like worthy of being back, you know. And I'm not even kidding. Like that's not in my mentality anymore, but it was just like that lingered for a bit, where I just felt like I didn't, like I said earlier, like fully buy in, or like I already mentally defeated myself.
Well, we never felt that way, so
yeah, I never thought that was.
I get what you're saying, because I feel that way about.
Well, Ryan, you got to think like this too. I'm a competitor, right? And I always want you guys to do your best. So of course I wanted you to win the match, and
we could walk away from it.
In my head, I'm like, he probably could have won that match or whatever it may have been, but within a week or two, it's not my life, you know? So like, I hope that you guys take the lessons from the wrestling and you use it in college and then what you're doing now and things of that nature, because like I've been saying, I think I'm maturing too as a coach the older I get. I think when I first got in there, I was very fired up, and I still, like Coach Bells will say, I'm still very much fired up, but like, I try to think of it more on like the, like a deeper level now, more that like, cause wrestling does end. Right. And what are we going to get out of this when it's over? You know, do I want a section champ and a state champ? Of course. You know, was I super proud when Aaron Walk won a state title? Yes. It was one of the best feelings I ever had as a coach. It was awesome. But with that being said, if Aaron Walk won a state title and ended up being a deadbeat after that and didn't go to college and didn't do all these things, I would trade away that state title. You know what I mean? Like, because what are we trying to do here? We're trying to raise you guys into better men and better women, Izzy. You know, hopefully we don't have to say Izzy every time I say better woman anymore. We'll get a bunch of girls wrestling. But, you know, I think that's a bigger thing. And I think you seem to have a handle on it now, and I'm glad you do. But I don't want you to overthink it.
I can tell you that I know it's affected me in a great way, because I still define myself as a wrestler. Like that's still like a mentality that I try to cultivate in my life. Like I still go at things like 100%. Like I tackled college. You know what I mean? I really did. But it's crazy that like I still define myself like that, but I haven't done it in 4 years.
But I feel like you always will, Rudy. I think I was thinking about it today. And Coach, you're a little older than me, like a year or two, or 20 or whatever. No big deal. But
hey, don't worry, you're catching up. You're getting older every day.
I know, man. It's a weird thing. I'm not happy about that. Me and DeBells had talked about that around states. I'm not happy that I keep getting older, so I'm going to try to figure out how to stop getting older. But you know, we'll talk about that off. But anyway, yeah, you'll always define yourself as a wrestler. I do, you know, now, and especially with this quarantine going on and me not being able to get to practice and stuff like that, I feel a lot of place, right? It doesn't feel right to me. But for you guys, you know, Shawn's jumping into the club stuff. Ryan wants to jump into like into some wrestling practice and whatever. That stuff's great.
Coach.
You don't have to be as in it as I am or Coach Spells is. But, you know, if you're going to matches, if you're following it, if you're still part of it, you're always, I think, you know, you see guys like 70, 80 years old that are, every year they go to the NCAA championships. They just love it. Like, it doesn't go away. I don't think that feeling will ever go away, Ryan. You'll always feel like a wrestler. I really feel like that's a thing, you know. Not
to go off target here, but Coach, you wrestled an 80-year-old guy in a Pin for a Cure tournament. And you beat him.
Listen, if this is going to be on air, let's get the gosh darn okay?
How old was he?
So we're gonna do this, guys. This is gonna hijack your interview for a second, but you're gonna hear about this because I think you guys will get a kick out of it. So like 5 years ago, I wrestled in the Pin Cancer Tournament. It's an open tournament, but the kids like talked me into it. I said, hey, if 10 of you guys sign up for it, I'll do it too, right? And they did, and I did, and I won the tournament. But I won like 3-2 in the finals, and I was tired. And I was like 27 at the time. I'm like, I'm not doing this again. So here comes last year, and somehow, some way, it gets brought up again. I think I actually just volunteered myself. I was like getting the itch.
But you had the Taft girls.
But I got the Taft girls to do it, and I got because they had a girls division, they had an open division, high school youth. I got Nick DeBellis, coach's son, wrestled in the youth division. We had like 3 Greeley guys in it, and whatever. And I said I was gonna, and now I started Cruz wrestling the open with me. So we both were in the open, and it was fun. So we get there, and there's this guy that actually was like 72, but looked way older, was walking around with wrestling shoes on.
And I was the whole time.
And I was already nervous because, you know, a lot of these wrestling coaches, especially big-time club coaches, want to talk that talk, but they don't want to put their money where their mouth is. They don't want to get out there because if they lose, how's everybody going to listen to you? You know what I mean? So I'm getting ready to go. So I'm already a little nervous, right? And I see this guy walking around, and I swear to you, I said to DeBellis, I'm like, I'm going to have to wrestle this freaking guy. He's like, no, you're not. Stop being silly. I'm like, I'm telling you, this guy's going to be somebody I'm going to have to wrestle. And lo and behold, the first match, guess who comes out? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So my dad's there, and DeBellis are coaching me. And my dad's crazy. My dad's like, don't take it easy on him. You never know. And DeBellis is like, you know, I don't know what to do. The ref's like, why don't you let him win? I'm like, dude, I just came out of 5 years retirement. I'm going to take second place and just give up a forfeit? Like, no way. So we go out there. The whole crowd, he's wearing a USA singlet. And it was a lot of people. The whole crowd started chanting, USA, USA. And I'm looking around, I'm like, oh my God. So I'm trying to go as light as possible, right? This guy comes from left field, clubs the crap out of me. I'm like, and long story short, I take a shot at him and he injury defaults because his heart rate was too high.
Yeah.
No way.
But then to make myself a little better, Coach DeBellis, I had like 4 other matches and they were college age guys and I beat the crap out of all of them. So
the one guy gave up.
One guy like tore his hamstring or something. I did something bad to him. But he wasn't a good guy. He was cursing and he was saying like he was not a good guy. So he needed that. I think I helped him. But anyway, I'm sorry for hijacking you guys there. But DeBellis is going to talk stories on live on the Takedown radio show and trying to.
I just wish we had. We got to get
respect on my name.
We got to get those things on the screen. You know that match would be great on the screen.
Guys, if you look it up, you guys do TikTok. Do you guys do TikTok?
I don't know.
I don't either, but the kids sent it to me. So, like, you could still see a link if you're not on TikTok. You could click it and still see the link. Somebody put it on some random wrestling TikTok, me wrestling that guy, and it has like 20,000 views. But then nobody said it.
They booed Totoro when he.
They booed me, but nobody knows. But they booed me for a second. Like I got behind him, I was like, "What do you want me to do?" And you hear somebody in the car go, "Oh, what's he supposed to do?" Like it wasn't like I slammed him to the ground or anything. But anyway, so Ryan, what are you up to now? We got a little sidetrack there.
What happened?
I mean, I got off work like an hour, 2 hours ago now. I'm working for Willis Towers Watson. I'm doing data analysis. Yeah.
Cool, man. Sounds like a difficult job.
Yeah, I mean,
I would not understand.
Sounds smart. Yeah, it sounds smart.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's good. I don't know exactly what I want to do. Like, I think Shawn and I were just talking yesterday. Like, I'd rather be doing something with like the environment probably. And we were actually just talking about like maybe potentially like in the next year like hiking the Appalachian. Just we were just messing around. But
listen, you never know, and you guys are young. And do this stuff while you can. Do it while you can before you're like me, and I'm still loving life. But I got a baby in the house. I can't really disappear and go hike some, mountain right now. Shawn, what are you up to?
So I'm a technical consultant at a company called Capgemini. So keep him busy.
We have a lot of consultants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was Kaufman and Paul? They were consultants too.
Yeah, I watched that one. They're both. Yeah.
So all 3 of you could just I could sit in a room with you guys, and you guys could just consult me on different things.
Yeah. Well, we'll consult you to where you want to go.
Been teaching and coaching for 25 years, and I wouldn't even feel confident consulting in that. These guys are special.
But yeah, real quick too, just because Rudy mentioned it, feeling like a wrestler, 100%. I would, to anybody who made it this far in the video, I would just undoubtedly recommend wrestling to anybody. Even if you don't stick it through, you're going to learn lessons. But if you do, I mean, it's taught me stuff that, I only did it through that in 1 year in college, and I have values from wrestling.
At NYU.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have values that, are never, ever going to leave me. Probably the biggest things are like discipline, learning to kind of appreciate uncomfortability, right? Like your limits as a person, which is a huge thing. What you were talking about earlier towards respecting the other guy getting an edge on you, like just having that kind of mentality of I gotta put it out there. And I have some notes. I'm just looking at them, and also respect and humility. Those are really big things, that came up in a couple other ones. And then even something that I didn't hear get talked about was health. I learned a lot about, my body and what kind of fuels are going to be good for me. It's kind of a smaller lesson, but in cutting weight and kind of learning to get your body to operate the way you need it to all the time, that's something too that came up that was really important. So definitely wanted to put that word out there.
Do you know what I think it's interesting too, Shawn, that you said, and Rudy, you jump in on this also, is the humility thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like with how crazy the world is right now, and it's not either way. I would never make this kind of interview like a political thing, right? But I feel like people are so, with social media platforms and stuff like that, they are so sure of what they're saying, and they're so like volatile in what they're saying, and it's like you don't see many wrestlers that really were in a good program and with the right kind of morals saying stuff like that. It's like put your money where your mouth is. Stop running your mouth so much. And I feel like a wrestler kind of has that humility because we suffered together, we worked together, we fought together. Like we know what a real tough guy is. And a lot of these people want to be a tough guy, and it's like, dude, I don't know who you're trying to impress with how you're speaking like that, but like it's not impressing me.
For sure.
And I feel like that's a thing with wrestlers. A lot of wrestlers are kind of on the same page with that. And I think that's something that this sport gives that a lot of other sports aren't capable of giving. So.
Yeah. Like a big part of my identity too nowadays is like, I can't even feel like, let's say I have a simple task to do at work or whatever the heck it may be. I don't feel confident like giving my 2 cents unless I've done my proper due diligence. Like I legitimately, and that actually extends beyond like tasks. It also goes to like, if I'm not working out, I feel like I'm not putting in my due diligence, and I feel kind of like, as if I don't have that chip on my shoulder, even physically, not outside of like the mental acumen. But yeah. And if you don't have any more questions, Torts, I actually had some questions for you guys.
All right. I like it.
Yeah.
Turning the table.
This guy is ready to go.
Sean's like one of our biggest fans.
I'm a lurker, man. I'm watching all these videos.
This is the interview process that they learn in college.
Yeah, they get me fired up.
They have some good questions at the end. All right.
It was great timing too, doing this with quarantine and all. But I wanted to flip the table a little bit and ask you guys what actually got both of you started, in wrestling, and also what has kept you in it. Like I think I have an idea, right? Based on the way you guys coach and the way you guys kind of advocate for the sport, but I'd love to hear it from both of you. So Torts, let's start with you.
All right. It's funny because we are going to interview ourselves, so these will probably come up again. But
Gotcha.
Like you said, who knows who's going to make it? Who's going to make it this far into the interview? So either way, we can put it out there twice. For me, honestly, I was always like a shy kid. I kind of remained shy through high school and stuff like that. But wrestling was like a good outlet for me to kind of like come out of my shell a bit. I was always a big fan of WWF, WWE now, but it was WWF when I was a kid. When I was little, in high school and stuff, I didn't watch it anymore. And Roy and Brooke, we just moved from Yonkers to Chappaqua when I was in the 3rd grade. And Roy and Brooke had like that after school Richmond program they did. They would like put out like flyers or whatever. And there was a wrestling one. And I thought that I would be hitting people with steel chairs. So I was like, oh. I saw it and I begged my mom. I'm like, Mom, can I please do this? Can I please do this? She's like, yeah, you could do it. I went there. There's some random other 3rd graders there, and I put it on them pretty good. And the coach was like, you should come to youth practice. And I went to youth practice, and, ever since, I mean, that's shoot, man, that's like 20 years ago. And here I am. I'll let Coach answer that, but there's plenty of reasons why I love it and I stay involved. But Coach, how did you, Shawn, you asked so much. I'm almost hijacking your interview now.
No, yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. So when I started wrestling, I was in gymnastics practice, and the gymnastics coach, we had gymnastics in middle school.
No kidding.
For 5th and 6th graders. And so there was an open wrestling tournament in the next gym over. This guy, Mr. Brockway, was hosted it every year. And the gymnastics coach said, hey, go over there if you want to try it. And I went over there and I did pretty well. So then I wrestled in 7th grade, and I did pretty well. And then I was asked to come up to the varsity and get my butt kicked at 98 pounds. And that's how I got started. I mean, once I got into it, I loved it. It was a great sport. And the reason why I still coach today is because I had great coaches. My coaches were just still part of my life. I still speak with them, all of my coaches from wrestling. And if it wasn't for those guys, I certainly wouldn't be where I am today. And I just, it's just part of giving back and, being there for you guys, And it's awesome.
Shawn, I think that's a little different for me. And not that I didn't have great coaches, my high school coach and I maybe didn't see eye to eye at the end there. But he was great to me when I was coming up. There was just some issues with like the club wrestling and off-season stuff that he didn't really agree with. So we didn't see eye to eye there. But John Dean was my coach in 7th grade too. That was a thing. But for me, I think the reason I coach, and I bet you this is DeBellis too, but he had great coaches, is I love seeing kids get better, regardless of what it is, right? To see, that's why I think I fell in love so much with coaching the girls in the Bronx this year. Because DeBellis will tell you, like, I'm very much in that now. I took those girls up to the club all summer, and they came to my mom's house swimming with DeBellis and his family, and they're part of the family now, and I just felt like I could really help them, and I like that. Like I like to see that, like, somebody that wasn't there, maybe mentally and physically, kind of have those tools when they're done, even in a year or even in a practice, just to see a difference. Like, they couldn't do this, but now they could do that. And I think that's the same thing why I like my job so much, right? Because Coach DeBellis and I always talk about, like, not as much anymore, but like in the beginning, like, oh, you gotta try to come and teach at Greeley and all these things. And I would love that, right? But I teach special needs kids, and to see them, kids with autism who can't speak, that are nonverbal, that nobody would have thought they would be able to stand on their poly spot and do a full warm up without running out of the room or trying to do anything. For me to be able to get them to do that, I love that. So yeah. I think that goes with coaching and my job, just to be able to help somebody. I think it's almost selfish. Like, people always think me and DeBellis are such great guys, and I like to think we are. I think I have good morals, right? I'm not a jerk, but it's almost my own selfish. It's fulfilling to kind of, see people get better. I love that.
Yeah, well, I think you guys do a good job. Rudy said it. I've heard it a bunch of interviews, but yeah, you guys create a really great culture, for the room, for the sake of people growing, for the sake of kind of creating, like, unity, between a team. And hey, man, I'm here talking to you guys, right? So, like, hats off to you guys and what you're doing, for real.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. This is fun. It was fun that Shawn just went interviewer on us too, man. That was a wild card. I like it.
There's a great quote towards that I remember from a book, and it goes, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking of yourself less.
Love it.
Oh, I like
That's
that.
a good quote.
Yeah.
It's a good quote. A lot of people nowadays could really use that quote.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Give 2, get 1, baby.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to stop recording, but hang on for 1 second. All right, great job, though.